I've scored perfectly on the math section of back-to-back SAT tests, and in today's video, I'll be doing a walkthrough of the Digital SAT Practice Test 4's math sections 1 and 2. So with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get started with section 1, question 1. So we have a group of students voted on 5 after-school activities. The bar graph shows the number of students who voted for each of these 5 activities. How many students chose activity 3? I see my y-axis is number of students. I look for where we have activity 3. I'll go ahead and go over to my y-axis. I see it's going to be right around 39. So we've got option A, 25, option B, 39, option C, 48, and option D, 50. So as you can see, 39 will be our answer there. Let's go and move on to question number 2. What percentage of 300 is 75? Okay, on percentages questions, you really want to pay close attention to the wording because sometimes it'll be percentage greater, percentage of, or what percentage, or what is, 75% times 300. In this case, it's what is the percentage of 300, or I'm sorry, what percentage of 300 is 75? So we take that 75, we put that over 300. That's going to give us 0.25 as a decimal. Okay, to convert that to a percent, we would multiply that by 100. Okay, and that will give us a value of 25%. So our answer there is going to be answer choice A. Moving on to question number 3. And that was a great chance to actually go ahead and comment down below when you are planning on taking the digital SAT, what test date you have, and then also what your goal score is. Okay, and just a quick note, I do have to switch between the sides of my screen recording sometimes, so that's why you'll see sort of these 5 seconds gaps between certain questions. All right, so here's question 3. What is the solution to the given equation? Well, let's go ahead and isolate x by multiplying both sides by 25. So now we have x squared is equal to 36 times 25. From there, we'll take the square root of each side in order to isolate x. So we'll have the square root of 36 times 25. Let's go ahead and put this in our calculator to see what we get for the value of x. So we've got 36 times 25, which is 900. We take the square root then of 900, and that'll give us 30 for the value of x. So x would equal 30. So our answer there is going to be answer choice B. Moving on to question number 4. We've got 3 more, so 3 more than 8 times a number x. So 3 plus 8x is equal to 83. Which equation represents the situation? Okay, we see we've got option A, 3 times x. We know that's not true. Option B, if we were to simplify this down, okay, we'd end up with a minus 3, so we know that would be wrong. Option C, we have 3x, we know it needs to be 8x. Okay, so our answer there would be D, 8x plus 3 must equal 83. Moving on to question number 5. And now's a great chance, if you have not yet, turn on the notification bell for my videos so you are alerted every time I post a video that can help you prepare for the digital SAT. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to question number 5. Hannah deposited a fixed amount into her bank account each month. The function f of t equals 100 plus 25t gives the amount in dollars in Hannah's bank account after t monthly deposits. What is the best interpretation of 25 in this context? Well, we know that 25 is going to be associated with t, which is the number of monthly deposits she makes. So 100 would be our initial amount. Okay, this 25 is how much she is inputting into her bank account every time she makes a deposit. So we have option A, with each monthly deposit, the amount in Hannah's bank account increased by $25. Yes, that is true. Okay, because f of t represents the total amount in her bank account, and it's going to increase by $25 every time we increase t by 1. So our answer there would be A. Moving on to question number 6 now. Okay, question number 6, we've got a customer spent $27 to purchase oranges at $3 per pound. How many pounds of oranges did the customer purchase? Well, we know that her total spending is $27, so I'm going to put my units of dollars to the right. You could put them on either side, but to the right is generally where I'll put my units. And we know that she's purchasing them at $3 per pound. So if we want to calculate, keep in mind we need this to equal out to the number of pounds. So I'll use pounds as LB, okay, for pounds. Then we need to divide by the dollars per pound. Okay, so we need to divide by dollars per pound so that we're left with pounds as our units. We know it's $3 per pound. Okay, so we see here that our numbers of dollars will cancel out and we'll be left with 27 over 3, which is equal to 9 pounds. As you can see, you can use units on the SAT math section to check your work, check your setup of initial equations, and then also to check your final answer. So as we can see, our answer for the amount of pounds that she buys will be 9 pounds. Moving on to question number 7 now, we have Nasir bought 9 storage bins, and let me zoom in a little bit so you can see these questions a little bit clearer. So there we go. Here's question number 7. Nasir bought 9 storage bins that were each the same price. He used a coupon for $63 off the entire purchase. The cost of the entire purchase after using the coupon was $27. Okay, so we know our total cost is going to be $27. We know that he's getting $63 off. We know he's buying 9 storage bins that are each the same price. We're just going to use X then for the variable. What was the original price in dollars for one storage bin? Okay, so we need to solve for X now. We'll go ahead and add 63 to both sides. 27 plus 63 is going to give us 90. 90 is equal to 9X. Divide both sides by 9. X is the value of one storage bin. We see that's 90 over 9, which will equal 10. So our answer for the value of one storage bin there will be 10. We can go and move on to question number 8 now. And if you're already gaining value from this video, then please consider going ahead and subscribing to this channel so that you can see all of my videos for the digital SAT. All right, that being said, let's go ahead and move on over here to question number 8. We got a linear function f. Table shows 3 values of x and their corresponding values of f of x. Which equation defines f of x? Okay, first thing that jumps out to me is that we have a 0 for x, and then at that point, f of x is 29. So that means we have a y-intercept of 29. So if we take a look at our answer choices, they're all in slope-intercept form, which means we can get rid of b and we can get rid of d because they have the wrong y-intercept. Next thing we look at, difference between a and c, is the slope. One is 3x and one is 35x. We see that as we run, or in other words, we go over by 1, we are increasing our y value by 3. So our slope then is 3 over 1, and our answer there's got to be a. We can go and move on to question number 9. Looks like we got some triangles here. With triangles questions and with circles questions, I'll usually recommend that you try to draw things out. So that's what we'll be doing here. So we have right triangles, PQR and STU are similar. P corresponds to S. Okay, so P corresponds to S. If the measure of angle Q is 18, so we can go ahead and put in that Q is 18, which means that T will also be 18 since these are similar triangles. What is the measure of angle S? Okay, well, we know that all of the angles in a triangle will sum to 180. We see you have right angles, which are 90 degrees here and here. So we can go ahead and do 180 minus 90 degrees. Okay, and then we also have to subtract our other angle measure of 18 degrees to solve for angle measure S right here. Okay, so 90 and 18 would sum up to 108. 180 minus 108 would leave us with 72 degrees. Okay, so our answer there would be answer choice B. All right, moving on to question number... let me quick check my math. 90 minus 18, yeah, it's 108. 180 minus 108, yeah, 72. Okay. Going on to next question. I think that's going to be question number 9, I believe. Okay, and now's a great time to go ahead and hit that like button if you have not hit it yet. Then go ahead and like this video. Okay, so it looks like we got large questions. So let me go ahead and zoom out so you can see that better. I guess that's question 10. Let me check if we answered number 9. Okay, yeah, 9 was the last question that we just did. Okay, yep, so we are on 10. Perfect. Okay, scatter plot shows a relationship between two variables, x and y. Looks like we've got a negative slope. Which of the following equations most appropriate linear model for the data shown? We can quickly draw a line of best fit. It's usually okay to just be a rough estimate with scatter plot questions like this. Y-intercepts looks like it's going to be somewhere between like 8.5 and 10. If we look at our options, we've got 0.9, 0.9. We can get rid of both of those. Now we're left with 9.4, 9.4, and then positive versus a negative slope. We see it's a negative slope, so we can get rid of C, and our answer there will be D. I'm going to move on to question number 11 now. We got given equation describes the relationship between number of birds B and number of reptiles R that can be cared for at a pet care business on a given day. If the business cares for 16 reptiles, that means R is 16. On a given day, how many birds can it take care of on this day? Well, let's go ahead and plug in 16 for R. We would end up with 2.5 B plus 5 times 16, which we can go ahead and do that right now. That's going to equal 80. So plus 80 is equal to 80. Well, if we have 80 equals 80 here, then that means the value of B would have to be 0 because this would have to end up being 0. So the number of birds it can take care of is 0. So our answer there would be A. We can go and move on to question number 12. And if you haven't shared my videos or my channel to your Snapchat story yet, go ahead and do that because it would really, really help me out and I would really, really appreciate it. With that being said, let's go and go into question number 12. Which equation or what is an equation of the graph shown? Let's go ahead and take a look at our y-intercept. We see that that's at -8, so we can go ahead and, okay, it looks like they all have -8. Okay, so now we're looking at slope. One of the things I notice immediately on this graph is that our increments are in units of 2. As you can see, they're not increments of 1, they're units of 2 on the x-axis, and they're also increments of 2 on the y-axis. So you got to pay really close attention to what you're incrementing by whenever you're dealing with graphs on the SAT, because I'm guessing if you don't here, then yeah, it looks like we have -2x, x, -x, 2x. So first thing we see is it's negative slope, right? So we can get rid of B and we can get rid of D. But as you can see, if you didn't catch the units thing here and you just looked at sort of the spaces, you would probably end up answering with, well, let's actually take a look at what the answer is. So we've got -8 going down by 2. Okay, so we're going down 2 and we're going over 2. All right, so our slope then would be 1, or -1, sorry. Okay, I'm trying to see if they're trying to trick you with these increments or if it's actually just, I guess in this case, it actually wouldn't matter because for slope, it wouldn't because they're in the same increments, right? They're 2 in the x-axis and they're 2 in the y-axis, so it wouldn't make a difference but in some cases they would be different, right? In some cases they'd go by 2 on the y-axis, but on the x-axis they might go by 1. And in those cases, they might try to trick you by putting in like, what you would get if you didn't catch that. They had different increments. So always pay attention to your increments on the axes is basically what I'm trying to say. All right, so answer there, we get C, okay, because we got the y-intercept -8, and obviously we go down 2 and over 2, which means that slope is going to be a value of -1. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to number 13. We got if x over 8 is 5, what's the value of 8 over x? I see that this is just the reciprocal of this. So I can just take the reciprocal of 5 over 1, which would give me 1 over 5. So our answer is 1 over 5. Number 14. Okay, just immediately what jumps out to me, 24x, 6x. That's a factor of 4. Solution, what is the solution to the given system of equations? Or the solution to the given system of equations is xy. What is the value of y? So we need to solve for y. Let's go ahead and get rid of x then. Anytime you see stacked equations, I'll quickly cover what you should do. You should look to add or subtract your bottom equation from your top equation. Sometimes that'll mean multiplying your top or your bottom equation by a number. Sometimes you also may be looking at substitution. For example, if they were to say y equals, something like 3x plus 7, and then they had on the bottom, some equation where you could just substitute in this 3x plus 7 for the value of y and solve for x or something. But ultimately, you always want to pay attention to what you're asked to answer with as well. In this case, that's the value of y, which means we want to get rid of x because we don't need to know its value. So we'll multiply this bottom equation by 4 to get that 24x. We also have to distribute that 4 to the y and the 72. So we got 24x minus 24x will leave us with 0. And then we will have a y minus 4y, which will leave us with -3y. And then we'll have a 48 minus 4 times 72. I'll put that in my calculator. And we'll see what that comes out to. That'll be -240. From there, we'll go ahead and divide both sides by -3. Y will equal -240. Divide by -3, and that's going to give us a value of +80. So our answer there would be +80. Let me write that a little bit neater, +80. Okay, from here, let's go and move on to question number 15. And now's a great time to share to your Instagram story if you have not already. It means a lot. Okay, and it would be very, very helpful and very nice. So I would really appreciate it if you would do that. That means let's go on to question 15. We got line T in the XY plane as a slope of -1/3, passes through the point 9, 10. Which equation defines line T? As we can see, we only have one line, and that's line T in this question. So should be pretty easy. We're looking at a slope of -1/3, which could be rewritten as negative x over 3, like it is in these two. The slope in A and B are both going to be wrong, so we'll get rid of both of those. From there, we're looking at y-intercepts. We have one that's +10 and one that's +13. So what I'll take a look at now is the points that it gave me. We see it goes through the point 9 and 10. So that's a 10 value for y at 9. Okay, so what I immediately see is that since we have this negative slope, right, if we were to kind of just draw this roughly, it looks something like this. Obviously, we can't then have a y-intercept of +10 because we already hit 10 right here. Okay, and we're 9 units to the right of the y-axis, so that can't be correct. Our answer would have to be D with that +13. Moving on to number 16 now, we got function f of x is equal to 206 times 1.034 to the power of x models the value in dollars of a certain bank account by the end of each year from 1957 through 1972, where x is the number of years after 1957. Okay, I'll make a couple quick notes on this. Anytime that you see a formula with an initial value and then a number in parentheses, which is going to be called your growth factor, raised to the power of x or raised to the power of x over 12 or something like that, immediately be thinking exponential growth formula, where this value here is your initial value, this value here is your growth factor, the value in parentheses that is your growth factor, and then whatever you're raising it to the power of will typically be sort of like the number of times that this growth factor is sort of happening. So a common example would be the growth factor would be 2, and you'd be doubling, and then whatever that power, whatever that 2 is raised to the power of is how many times you'll be doubling. So there's a quick explanation on the exponential growth equation. From here, other things you want to look out for is years. Oftentimes these types of questions will be associated with years, so always pay attention to what your years are because they won't always be start and end. Sometimes they'll be a year in, a couple of years in, so always pay attention to that. Which of the following is the best interpretation of f of 5 is approximately equal to 243 in this context? Well, we know that f of 5 means that we are 5 years after 1957, so that would put us in 1962. For the year. And then we know that that's equal to 243. And we know that this is modeling the value in dollars of the bank account. So that would mean the bank account has $243 in 1962. So we have option A, value of the bank account is estimated to be approximately $5 greater in 1962. Then in 1957, well, obviously that's not true because 206 to 243 is a difference of somewhere between like 30 and 40. I don't really feel, I guess, okay, I'll quick do it. So 43 minus 6, 37 would be the difference. So that's wrong. B, value of the bank account is estimated to be approximately $243 in 1962. Yes, that's perfect. Okay, so we can move on to question number 17 now. Now's a great time to go ahead and comment what videos you guys want me to make in the future to help you prep for the digital SAT. Okay, I'm happy to make those. Ultimately, my goal is to help you prepare as best as possible so you can achieve your goal score. So here's question 17. For a certain rectangular region, the ratio of its length to its width is 35 to 10. So that means its length is equal to 35 over 10 times its width, which will represent as W. If the width of the rectangular region increases by 7 units, how must the length change to maintain this ratio? Okay, well, obviously our length will have to also increase. So that means we can get rid of A and we can get rid of C. Option D, it must increase by 7 units. And option B, it must increase by 24.5 units. Well, as you can see, if we increase our width or W by 3, then we'd multiply 3.5, which is the same as 35 over 10, by that, or I'm sorry, if we increase by 7 units is what it says, 7 units. Okay, we'd multiply that then by 7. 3.5 times 7 will give us, well, 3 times 7 is 21 plus half of 7. So that'd give us 24.5 as how much our length must increase if our width increases by 7. Okay, so our answer there would be answer choice B. It must increase by 24.5 units. Go move on to question 18. We got square P has side length of X inches. So I'll just write square P, and then we can just write a X for that side length, the side length, so on. Okay. Square Q has a perimeter that is 176 inches greater than the perimeter of square P. The function f gives the area of square Q in inches. Which of the following defines f? Okay, well, we know that the perimeter of square Q is going to equal, I'll just write, keep this here. Okay, perimeter. All right, P of Q for perimeter of square Q, P of Q. We know that that's going to equal 4 times the side length of Q. So 4 times side length of Q. I guess I'll just use S, I guess, for the side length of Q. So we'll put S, and we'll use X for the side length of P then, that's fine. Key things we also get is that the perimeter of Q is equal to 176 inches greater than the perimeter of P. We know the perimeter of square P would be, perimeter of, square P would be 4X. Okay, so we can go down here, we can put that'd be 176 plus 4x. Which of the following functions defines f? And f is the area of square Q. So we need to solve for the area of square Q. Well, we know that the area of square Q, that's just going to be the side length squared. So that's going to be s squared. So we need to solve for s. All right. Well, in order to solve for s here, we've got this equation here. For s is equal to 1. Okay, if we take a look at our answer choices, they all are dealing with an x value. So we don't need to, there's no way we can solve for x. So it has to be in terms of x. So this is fine. What we'll do then is we'll go ahead and get this s value isolated by dividing both sides by 4. So that would mean s is going to equal 176 over 4 plus 4 over 4x. As you can see, 4 over 4x just becomes 1x. 176 over 4, that'll leave us with, trying to do this in my head, 44, I do believe. So we got 44 plus x is equal to s. Like I said, the area of Q must be s squared. We can go ahead and plug in 44 plus x for s. And we get that the area must be 44 plus x squared. That'll be answer choice A. So A would be our answer there for number 18. Moving on to number 19 now. We've got, let's see, okay, 19. Let me go ahead and adjust the screen so you can see the full question. There we go. Given equation relates the distinct positive real numbers w, x, and y, which equation correctly expresses w in terms of x and y. If you see a question like this, you can glance at your answer choices and you'll notice that they all just are ultimately sort of, what's the word? Expression. You're just expressing the equation in terms of a different variable. So you're just rearranging the variables. All right, so we want to get w out from underneath the square root. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get it so it's just a square root. So I'll divide both sides by 2 to start. Then I get 2 times 7, that's going to be 14. So I can cancel this 14. I can cancel that 2 times 7. So now I've got x over y. So I'll write this a little bit bigger so you can see it more clearly. I have x over y is equal to root w plus 19. At this point is where I square to get rid of the square root so I can extract w out from underneath that square root. Okay, from here I've got a x over y squared is equal to w plus 19. All we got to do is subtract 19 from both sides. We'll end up with w is equal to x over y squared minus 19. If we look at our options, A would be wrong then, B would be wrong then, C of x over y squared minus 19. That's what we got. So C would be our answer there. We can go and move on to number 20 now. Point O is the center of a circle. The measure of arc RS on the circle is 100 degrees. Circles question and triangles questions you're going to always want to draw out because it's extremely helpful. We got arc RS is 100 degrees. I'll try to make this roughly look around 100 degrees. Hopefully that's pretty good, I'd say. What is the measure in degrees of its associated angle ROS? Well, we know the arc, the measure of the arc is 100 degrees. Therefore, the measure of the angle will also need to be 100 degrees. Keep in mind, you want to pay attention to what you're asked to answer because sometimes it may say in degrees and sometimes it may say in radians. You may need to convert from degrees to radians or radians to degrees. In this case, they're both degrees, so we don't need to make any conversions, and our answer there would be 100. Moving on to number 21, expression 6 times, and then we've got this fifth root, and then after that we'll have an eighth root of stuff is equivalent to axb, where a and b are positive constants and x is greater than 1. What is the value of a plus b? Always pay close attention to what you're asked to answer on the SAT, and in this case that's the value of a plus b. So let's go ahead and start extracting some stuff from underneath these square roots. So let me zoom in on this so you can see very, very clearly what I'm going to be doing. All right. So I wanted to zoom in right here so I don't have to rewrite it. So if I've got 3 to the power of 5 and I'm taking the fifth root of that, that's going to leave me with a 3 that can get extracted. So I have 6 times 3, and I'll write these sort of down below what it equals out to. So now I've pulled out that 3 to the fifth. Next thing I've got is x to the power of 45. I can write that since we're taking the fifth root of that, that could be rewritten as x to the 45 over 5. 45 over 5 is 9, so that would give us x to the power of 9. Moving over into this eighth root, we have 2 to the power of 8, so that'd be 2 to the power of 8 over 8, which is 2 to the power of 1, so multiply it by 2. And then we still have this x, so this would be x to the power of 1 over 8, so then we'll have x to the power of 1 over 8. Okay, all right, so now that we've gone ahead and rewritten this in a simplified form, let's go ahead and get it into a, I believe it said a x to the power of b. Let me go ahead and zoom back out. Yeah, so ax to the power of b. All right, so let's go ahead and get this in that format. So first thing I'll do is I'll take these constants and multiply them. 6 times 3 times 2, 6 times 3 is 18, 18 times 2 is 36. Next thing we have is x to the 9th and x to the 1/8. Let me go ahead and convert this 9 to have a denominator of 8. 9 times 8 will give me 72. So that's 72 over 8 plus 1 over 8. 72 plus 1 will give me 73 over 8. So times x to the power of 73 over 8. Okay, so now we know that b is equal to 73 over 8. And we know that our a value is 36. So let me go ahead and erase all this now. We need the value of a plus b. Okay, always pay attention to what you're asked to answer with. So we're going to take 36 and we're going to add on 73 over 8. Let me go ahead and convert this 36 into being over 8. So we'll do 36 times 8. Let's put that in the calculator and see what we get there. 36 times 8 will give us 288. So we've got 288 over 8. 288 plus 73. We'll see what that gets us. That'll give us 361. Okay, so our final answer then would be 361 divided by 8. So that's a pretty big fraction for a free response, but as you can see, we went through all the steps. The overall process is really just making sure you understand how to deal with exponents and how to sort of rewrite them as a fraction. So for example, 3 to the power of 5 over 5, same as 3 to the power of 1, x power 45 over 5, same as x to the power 9. So that's really what it's testing there. Moving on to the next question, which is question number 22. Okay, let me go ahead and switch the side of my screen. Now's a great time to go ahead and follow me on TikTok if you have not yet. But actually, just wait to do that till the end of this video because I don't want you to get distracted. But yeah, sometimes I just try to figure out something to say while I'm switching from like the left to the right side of my screen. And sometimes I just say something stupid like that. So anyways, here's question 22. A right triangle has side lengths of 2 root 2, 6 root 2, and root 80. What is the area of the triangle in square units? All right, so we're solving for area of a triangle. Area of a triangle is going to be 1/2 of our base times height. If I go ahead and draw this triangle out, we got a right triangle. I'm not going to draw this proportional because I haven't really looked at the sides yet. But anyways, right triangle. We got 2 root 2, which will be one of the legs for sure. Then we've got 6 root 2 and root 80. Let me go ahead and convert 6 root 2 into all being underneath the square root. So 6 squared is 36. 36 times 2 is root 72. So we can write that 6 root 2 is equal to root 72. Okay, as you can see, that's less than root 80. So we'll have root 72 over here. And then we got root 80 right here. All right, so now we've got our base and our height. Let me actually rewrite root 72 as what it was given to us as of 6 root 2. 6 root 2. Okay, so from here we need the area. So let's just go ahead and plug into our formula for the area of a triangle. So we got our base, which is 2 root 2, times our height, which is 6 root 2, all divided by 2. I see our 2's are going to cancel right there. Okay, so they're gone. Next thing I'm going to end up with then is going to be 6 times root 2 times root 2. Okay, root 2 times root 2 is the same as multiplying by 2. 6 times 2 is going to equal 12. So our answer there would be answer choice B. All right, moving on to number 23 now. We've got expression 4x squared. Let me try to, I'll zoom out a little bit so you guys can see the question number. Okay, there we go. Expression 4x squared plus bx minus 45, where b is a constant, can be rewritten as hx plus k times x plus j, where h, k, and j are integer constants. Anytime you're told something is an integer, or is negative, or is positive, or is a maximum, is a minimum, things like that, always pay really close attention to it. Which of the following must be an integer? Okay, so we need to solve for which one of these is going to be an integer. We're told h, k, and j are integer constants, so we're probably looking for finding the value of h, j, or k, and probably most likely one of their values would be included here because they are integer constants. So therefore, if we can get their value, it's probably going to end up being one of these, and that'll be the integer. So to do that, we know that this expression is ultimately what's getting rewritten in terms of h, k, and j. So let's go ahead and start with that. So we got 4x squared plus bx minus 45. We can go ahead and set that equal to, we're going to have to expand this out. And the reason we got to expand this out is because we need to get this coefficient in terms of, it looks like this will be hx squared. And then we can also get this right here in terms of the variables as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So first thing we'll do is we'll take our, here, let me write out the steps a little bit more clearly. Okay, x plus j. All right, so we take this hx, multiply it by x. That's going to give us hx squared. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our hx and multiply it by j to give us plus jhx. Okay, we also have to take this k and multiply it by x, so plus kx. And then we also have to take this k and multiply it by j, so plus kj. So let me go ahead and move over a little bit so you guys can see this. Go. Okay, so plus, whoa, don't know what happened there. Okay, let me scroll back up. All right, there we go. Plus kj. There we go. Okay, and let me turn this capital J back into a lowercase. Okay, that's a lowercase j. All right. So from here, we see that this hx squared is our only x squared value. That means that this h must equal 4. So we have the value of h now. I'll take a look at my answer choice to see which ones have h, and I'll go ahead and substitute in a 4. So we have b over 4, but I don't know the value of b, so that's not helpful. Here we have 45 over 4, but that's a decimal, so we can get rid of c. And that's the only things with h there. So next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and take a look at if we can calculate anything else. We have this jhx plus kx would equal bx, but I don't think that that's very helpful because we can't really, I don't see how we can isolate anything easily there. So let's just check kj because that's easier. And then we'll come back to this term if we need to, but we got kj and negative 45. So k times j, since it's the only value that doesn't have an x value, it must equal negative 45. Therefore, we can go ahead and find the value of j. That'd be negative 45 over k. Okay, so j is equal to negative 45 over k. We see that we've got 45 over k here. Now keep in mind that even though this is negative 45 over k, that still means that 45 over k has to be an integer. And a good example of this would be, let's say that j was equal to negative 2. Well, that would mean that 45 over k would equal 2, right? And that's an integer. So that's how you can sort of tell that it has to be an integer, right? It doesn't matter that there's a negative sign in front of it. Okay, so it doesn't matter there's a negative sign in front of it. 45 over k has to be an integer, so our answer's got to be D. We can go ahead and get rid of A and B as well. Now we're on number 24. Let's go ahead and scroll down, switch sides of the screen recording so you guys can see our next question. And now's a great time to go ahead and drop a comment and let me know what videos you guys want me to make. Here's 24. Given system of equations, A is a constant. Graphs of the equations of the given system intersect at exactly one point. Anytime you're told something intersects at exactly one point, infinitely many points, or no points, or has no zeros, 1 0, 2 zeros. Always pay attention to that. And the xy plane, what's the value of x? All right, well, in order for these to intersect at exactly 1 point, what we can do is we can go ahead and substitute in this y up here for that 3x plus a, and then we'll use b squared minus 4ac, which if that value is equal to 0, then that means that there is going to be exactly one real solution. Now, keep in mind that you can only use b squared minus 4ac once you have a quadratic that is set equal to 0. So let's go ahead and get a quadratic that is set equal to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and write this up here. So we have 3x plus a. Okay, we'll scratch out this y because we just substituted in for it. Now let's set it all equal to 0. So we'll get 0 is equal to, we've got 2x squared still. Then we've got minus 21x, but we also have to subtract 3x from both sides. So that'll give us minus 24x. Then we have plus 64 minus a. Plus 64 minus a. And what I'll do here is I'm going to call c equal to 64 minus a. And then I'll just replace the 64 minus a with c. And c just represents that 64 minus a. All right, from here, let's go ahead and get our b value. So b value is negative 24. So we'll do negative 24 squared, negative 24 squared, minus 4 times a. Our a value here is 2. And then times c. So we'll just put c. All right, so let's go ahead and simplify this down. Negative 24 squared we can put in a calculator. That's going to give us a value of 576. So we'll have 576 minus 8c is equal to 0. We add 8c to each side. 8c is equal to 576. From there, we'll divide both sides by 8. Divide by 8. That's going to equal c. 576 over 8. Let's see what that's going to get us. That'll give us 72 as the value of c. Now, keep in mind that we need to ultimately answer it with the value of x here. Okay, the value of x. So not the value of c, the value of x. So to get to the value of x, we're going to need to, let's see here. Well, let's first go ahead and get the value of a. Okay, so to get the value of a, we got c is 72. We set that equal to 64 minus a. From there, let's go ahead and subtract 64 from both sides. That'll end up giving us a value of 8 is equal to negative a. So that means that a then, let me go ahead and erase. I guess I'll just keep writing down below. So we'll have that a then is going to equal negative 8. All right, so a is negative 8. So we can go ahead and substitute that in up here. A is negative 8. So we got 3x minus 8. That's the value there. They're going to intersect at exactly 1 point. What is the value of x? What's the value of x? Actually, did we even need to solve for c? 42c. What's the value where they intersect only 1 point? All right, let's backtrack a little bit. I think we may have gone weary somewhere. Okay, so they intersect at exactly 1 point. One of these is linear, one's a quadratic. We can go ahead and substitute in. Okay, 3x plus a. What is the value of x? What's the value of x if they intersect at exactly 1 point? Okay, we get here. Oh, I see what we got to do. We got to plug back in. Okay, so once we get that 72 is the value of c, here's what we can do. Then we can just factor. Okay, so we did not need to go through and solve for a there. We just need to get to the 72 actually as the value of c. Okay, now that we got c as 72, we can just go back up here and factor. Okay, so now we know what c has to be in order for this to be the case. Now let's go ahead and factor out 2. So we'll have 2x squared minus 12x plus 36. Okay, so just a quick lesson on if you get stuck like that, just start backtracking a couple steps, and then you can kind of get to where you need to be. So here we go ahead and look to factor some more. We'll have x minus 6 and x minus 6 because that gets us plus 36, and we have minus 12x. As you can see there, then we get x is going to equal 6. So our answer there would be answer choice C. If you wanted to check this with Desmos, you could. Since we already calculated the value of A as, I believe it was 72, so that'd be, I believe it was a minus 8, I want to say what we had for the value of 8. You could check these in Desmos with whatever you got for the value of A. I erased it now, so I don't see it anymore, but in this case, we can see that since we had that plus 72 there, we just go through, we factor, we see x will be 6, so our answer there would be answer choice C. We can go and move on to question number 25. Isosceles right triangle has a hypotenuse of 58. So we got hypotenuse of 58. What is the perimeter in inches of this triangle? Okay, it's isosceles. Always pay attention to if it's an isosceles right triangle. That means these side lengths are the same. That means it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. A 45, 45, 90 triangle. Let me draw one that's a little bit more accurate to a 45, 45. There we go. 45, 45, 90. That'd be x root 2. Okay, where x is one of these side lengths here. So based on that, we can go ahead and take 58 and we can divide it by root 2 to get 58 root 2 for both of these side lengths. Now from here to get the perimeter, we're just going to sum up all of our side lengths. So that would be, let's see, or wait a minute, 58 root, no, I'm sorry, this would not be 58 root 2. This would be half of 58, which would be 29 root 2. Okay, because we're not getting bigger, obviously, when we go away from our hypotenuse. We have to divide by root 2. So that would give us that, here, let me backtrack a little bit. Okay, so we've got right triangle right there, 58. Here's 45. Here's 45. Okay, here's the work written out a little bit better so you can see it. 58. We have to take that. We know that it's getting multiplied by root 2. So we have to divide it by root 2. Okay, and that will give us these side lengths. Okay, so 58, we got to take that. We got to divide it by root 2. If we take 58 and we divide it by root 2, that's going to give us that 29 root 2, right? Because 29 root 2 times root 2 is what gives you 58. Okay, so that's how you can calculate that. From there, we got our side lengths. Now it should become pretty easy. Okay, we just sum all of these together. Okay, that'll give us 58 plus 29 root 2 times 2, since we have 2 of them. We can simplify that down by multiplying that 2 by 29. That's going to give us that 58 plus 58 root 2. And we see that'll be answer choice C. So C would be our answer there for number 25. Okay, moving on to number 26 now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch sides on my screen. There it is. In the XY plane, we've got a parabola. It's got a vertex of 9 and negative 14 and intersects the x-axis at 2 points. If the equation of the parabola is written in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are constants, which of the following could be the value of a plus b plus c? Okay. So we've got our vertex. Let's go ahead and write this out in vertex form. Okay, vertex form is ax minus the x coordinate of your vertex, which is 9. Okay, so that would be 9. And then minus whatever it would be plus whatever your y coordinate for your vertex is. In this case, that's negative 14, so it'd be minus 14. Okay, from here, let's go ahead and expand on this. So we're going to have that a being applied there and there. So we'll end up with y is equal to, oh, and that's squared, by the way. That would be squared. Y is going to equal ax squared minus, this would be 18x, so 18ax, and then plus 81a minus 14. Okay, so from here we've got everything in terms of a, and then obviously we have those x values. So we've got x squared and x. That means that our a is going to equal a, our b is going to equal, let's go ahead and sum these together. So we got negative 18, or I'm sorry, we don't need to sum these together. We do not need to sum these together. Okay, so b would then be negative 18. And then we have this plus 81a minus 14 as the value of c. So c would then equal 81a minus 14. All right, so we got the values of a, b, and c. Let's go ahead and sum them together. So a plus b is going to be the same as a plus negative 18, which is the same as a minus 18. And that's a minus 18a, right? Because we have minus 18a there. Okay, so a minus 18a, and then we've got plus c, so plus 81a minus 14. Let's go ahead and combine all these a terms. So a minus 18a will give us negative 17a, negative 17a plus 81a, negative 17 plus 81, that's going to give us 64a, so that'll equal 64a minus 14. Okay, so now we've got the value of this sum. Which of the following could be the value of this? So let me erase up here so we've got a little bit more room. Okay, so 64a minus 14. Now we see that our vertex is at 9 and negative 16, and we intersect the x-axis at 2 points. Let's go ahead and draw this out. Vertex at 9, negative 14, so we'll just call this negative 14. So right here, we intersect the x-axis at 2 points. Okay, so that means we are opening up. That means our a value has to be positive, okay, because we are opening up like a smiley face. We know that because we're crossing this x-axis twice. So therefore, a must be positive. We have 64a minus 14. What could be one of these values? Well, we know that our absolute, the smallest value that it could possibly be would be where So a can't be 0 here, okay? A's got to be positive, so let me just write that. A's got to be positive. Since a has to be positive, we can't ever reach negative 14. We always have to be greater than negative 14. Okay, so since we always have to be greater than negative 14, our only answer there could be D. So D has to be our answer for 26. 27, function f is defined by f of x equals negative a to the power of x plus b, where a and b are constants in the xy plane. The graph of y equals f of x minus 15 has a y-intercept of 0, negative 99 over 7. The product of a and b is 65 over 7. What is the value of a? All right, so solving for a. So we got function f, xy plane. Okay, we've got a transformation of f of x minus 15, so we're translating it down by 15. And after we have this transformation, we get this y-intercept right here. So let's go ahead and write what y is equal to. So we know y is equal to negative a to the power of x plus b minus 15, since we're translating down 15. Now we know that we get a y-intercept of 0 and negative 99 over 7. So if we put in 0, then we end up having negative a to the power of 0. Any constant to the power of 0 will just give us 1, so negative 1. Plus b minus 15, negative 1 and negative 15. We could rewrite this as b minus 16. B minus 16 is going to equal our y value of negative 99 over 7. From here, let's go ahead and get what b is equal to then by adding 16 to each side. So if we add 16 to each side, I'll first convert 16 into units over 7. So 16 times 7, that's 112. So we have 112 over 7 that we need to add. So negative 99 plus 112 will give us 13 over 7. So then b is going to equal 13 over 7. Okay, so if b is 13 over 7, we can go ahead and solve for a now. We know that a is going to equal 65 over 7 times b. We know b is 13 over 7. So go ahead and plug that in, 13 over 7. Okay, our 7s will cancel. We have 65 over 13. We can go ahead and simplify that down. If we put it in our calculator, 65 over 13 will give us 5. Okay, so our answer for the value of a would be 5. All right, let's go ahead and move on to section number 2 now. So let's go ahead and go to section 2. Okay, now's a great time to go ahead and subscribe if you have not yet. All right, here's question number 1. Line graph shows the estimated number of chipmunks in a state park on April 1 of each year from 1989 to 1999. We've got estimated number of chipmunks, year based on the line graph, and which year was the estimated number of chipmunks in the state park the greatest. Always pay attention to words like greatest, smallest, minimum, maximum, things like that. Okay, we're looking at where it's the greatest. That's in 1994. Answer there is B. Moving on to question number 2. Fish swam a distance of 5,104 yards. How far did the fish swim in miles? We take our 5,104 yards. I'll use y for yards. We need to cancel out our yards. So we've got 1760 on the bottom from our conversion here. 1 mile on top. Yards will cancel. We'll be left with our answer in miles. So we've got 5,104 over 1760. If you put that in our calculators, that's going to give us that 2.9. So our answer there's got to be answer choice B. All right, let's go ahead and move on to question number 3. Okay, I'm going to switch sides of my screen. Now's a great time to go and like the video if you have not yet. Which expression is equivalent to 12x to the power of 3 minus 5x to the power of 3? In this case, we both have x to the power of 3. So 12 minus 5 will leave us with 7x to the power of 3. That'll be answer choice C. So C will be our answer for number 3. Moving on to number 4. What is the solution? X, Y of this given system of equations. In this case, it looks like we're going to have substitution. Because we have 5y is equal to x, I can substitute in 5y there. So we'll have 5y plus y is equal to 18. That's 6y equals 18. 6y equals 18. Divide both sides by 6. 18 over 6 will leave you with a value of 3. So y's got to be 3. Only its choice of y is 3 is A. So our answer there will be A. We can go ahead and move on to our next question. Next question is going to be number 5. So I'm going to go ahead and switch sides on my screen. Okay, we've got number 5. 0.82 in the xy plane is the solution to which of the following system of inequalities? We got to plug in 8, we got to plug in 2. 8's our x values, 8 greater than 0, that's true. Is 2 greater than 0, that is also true. So that point satisfies this system of inequalities. So we can go and move on from there. That one's pretty easy. It's just simple substitution with pretty small numbers and using 0 as the comparisons. That's really easy. What is one possible solution to the given equation? We have absolute value here. With absolute value, you can get 2 possible solutions here. You only have to name one of them, but I'll show you both. First thing you'll do is you'll start off by taking everything in the parentheses and you'll just leave it as is. You'll set it equal to 10. You'll add 5 to each side. You'll get that then x must equal 15. So that's one possible answer. The other possible answer is you take everything that's in that parentheses, you throw a minus sign in front. So you have minus x minus 5 is equal to 10. We distribute our minus sign to x and a negative 5. That's going to get you negative x plus 5 is equal to 10. From there, we subtract 5 from both sides. That'll get you 5 is equal to negative x. You divide both sides by negative 1, and that would get you x is equal to negative 5. Okay, so answers here would be 15 and -5. As you can see, if you put in -5 minus 5, that gets you -10. Absolute value, that's 10. 10 equals 10. 15 minus 5 in absolute value, that gets you absolute value of 10. 10 equals 10. So there's a quick way to check your answers as well. Let's go ahead and move on to number 7. Function gives a total number of people on a company retreat with X managers. What is the total number of people on a company retreat with 7 managers? You plug in 7 for X. Since X represents the number of managers, you get 7 times 7, which is 49, plus 1. That'll get you 50 as your answer. Go ahead and move on to question number 8 now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch sides of my screen. While I do this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. That way you stay up to date on my videos, and go ahead and turn those notifications on as well. Here's question 8. Looks like it fits all on screen. Which table gives 3 values of X and their corresponding values of H of X for the given function? Okay, I see that our X values are all the same in all of these, so I need the values of 1, 2, and 3. Let's go and put in 1 for X. 1 squared is 1. 1 squared minus 3 would be 2, so we'll have 1 and I'm sorry, hang on. 1 minus 3 would be -2. 1 and -2. Okay, so we got 1 and -2, so we can get rid of A. We can get rid of C. Looking at the differences between these two, they both have 2, 1. Next point's 3, 6 versus 3, 3. So let's go ahead and plug in 3 for X. 3 squared, that's going to give us 9. 9 minus 3 will equal out to 6. So we should have a 3 and 6. Option D is incorrect then. B would have to be our answer. Moving on to question number 9. Function f is defined by f of x equals 270 times 0.1 to the power of x. This is obviously going to be decreasing exponential. What is the value of f of 0? Plug in 0 for x. 0.1 raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So you're going to end up with 270 times 1. That will just equal out to 270. And your answer's got to be answer choice D. We can go and move on to question number 10. Okay, as you can see, I'm going faster on this section just because I took that last section, did a lot of explaining of some basic stuff, some tips that I want you to know, and now I'm kind of showing you how you can sort of apply that and move quickly. Here's question 10. To estimate the proportion of a population that has a certain characteristic, a random sample, that's always important to look for, was selected from the population based on the sample. It is estimated the proportion of the population, so proportion that has the characteristic is 0.49 with an associated margin of error of 0.04. Based on this estimate and the margin of error, which of the following is the most appropriate conclusion about the proportion of the population that has the characteristic? We have option A. It is plausible that the proportion is between 0.45 and 0.53. Well, we know that our proportion estimate is 0.49, but it's got margin of error of 0.04. So you got to do plus minus of 0.04. Minus would get you 0.45, which we have here. Plus would get you 0.53. So it is plausible that the proportion is between those two numbers. So we can go ahead and move on to question number 11. Moving truck can tow a trailer if the combined weight of the trailer and the boxes is no more than 4,600. So 4,600 is our maximum. What is the maximum number of boxes this truck can tow in a trailer with a weight of 500 pounds if each box is 120 pounds? We'll just call boxes X since we have no other variables here. Subtract 500 from both sides. We'll get 4,100 must be greater than or equal to 120X. Divide both sides by 120. Keep in mind this still has to be greater than. Okay, so 4,100 over 120. That's going to give us 34.16 repeating. So 34.16 repeating. Keep in mind we have to be less than or equal to that. Therefore, B, C, and D can't be correct. And so there's got to be A. That's the maximum number of boxes. Moving on to number 12. Okay, number 12. Let me go ahead and switch sides on my screen. Okay, there it is. Number 12, what is the positive solution to the given equation? All right, let's get this set equal to 0 so that we have a quadratic set equal to 0. Negative 4x squared minus 7x plus 36. This doesn't look super easy to factor, so what I'll do here is I'll use Desmos. Let me go ahead and show you Desmos. This is the digital SAT, so there are some questions where it makes sense to use Desmos. This is indeed one of them. So what I'll do here is I just plug this in, and I'm going to be looking for the positive solution to the given equations. Always pay attention to which solution you're looking for, so words like positive, negative. In this case, it's the positive one. So let me go ahead and type this in on Desmos. Okay, so it's going to be negative 4x squared. Negative 4x squared minus 7x. And then plus 36. All right, so always check and make sure that you have the correct equation written in on Desmos. Because if you don't, you're obviously going to get the question wrong. So here's me zooming out. Okay, let me go ahead and find my points. We're looking for the positive solution to the equation. Okay, if I take a look, I see that's at 2.25. Okay, so 2.25 is equal to 9 over 4. So our answer there would have to be answer choice B. Okay, let me go ahead and hide Desmos again. Okay, keep in mind the reason I use Desmos there is because if you take a look at this equation, that's not very easy to factor out. So it does make sense to go ahead and use Desmos there. Maybe it was not too difficult to factor, but it's kind of a personal thing where if you personally look at it and you're like, I don't think this is super easy to factor, then just use Desmos. It's not a big deal. Here's 13. Table summarizes distribution of color and shape for 100 tiles of equal area. One of these tiles is selected at random. Always pay attention to how something's being selected, in this case at random. What's the probability of selecting a red tile? So we're selecting from all 100 tiles, so our denominator here is going to be 100. Probability of selecting a red tile, the total for red is 30, so that'll be 30 over 100. That'll equal out to 0.3. We need to answer as a decimal or a fraction. We'll do a decimal in this case of 0.3. Moving on to 14. Given function f, the graph of y equals f of x in the xy plane is parallel to line j. What's the slope of line j? Parallel lines have the same slope. The slope of f of x is 2, therefore the slope of j also has to be 2. Moving on to question number 15 now. Okay, let me go and switch sides on my screen. Okay, 15, proposal for a new library was included on an election ballot. Radio show stated that 3 times as many people voted in favor of the proposal as people who voted against it. We'll use A for against, F for in favor. So the number in favor is equal to 3 times the number who voted against it. Social media post reported that 15,000 more people voted in favor of the proposal than voted against it. So our number that voted in favor is equal to the number that voted against plus 15,000. Based on these data, how many people voted against the proposal? Solve for A. To solve for A, we'll go ahead and substitute in this value of A plus 1,500 for the value of F. So we're going to have A plus, or that'd be 15,000, not 1,500, is equal to 3A. Subtract A from both sides, get 2A is going to equal 15,000. Divide both sides by 2 to get the value of A. A is going to equal 15,000 over 2, which will give us 7,500. Answer for the value of the number of people who voted against the proposal. Okay, always pay attention to what you're asked to answer with. It's going to be 7,500. That's going to be answer choice A. Moving on to number 16, we got intersecting parallel lines, it looks like. In the figure, lines L and M are parallel. If x equals 6k plus 13 and y equals 8k minus 29, what is the value of z? So we need to solve for z. I see x and y are going to be the same value. Okay, so since those are going to be the same value, we can go ahead and set them equal to each other, solve for k. When we do that, I'm always going to try to keep my coefficient in front of my variables positive. Therefore, I'll subtract 6k, so I have that positive coefficient of 2. So now I've got 2k. I'll go ahead and add 29 to both sides. 13 plus 29 will leave me with 42 is equal to 2k. Divide both sides by 2. That's going to give us k is equal to 21. That's not our answer, though, because we need the value of z. Always pay attention to what you're asked to answer with, because as you can see, if you don't, you're going to get that wrong. Okay, we're looking for the value of z, so let's go ahead and solve for that. We know that y right there is going to be the same as right here, so we go 180 minus y gets us z. I'll go ahead and just do that up here, 180 minus the value of y. We need to know what the value of y is. I'll also write this up here. We know that y is going to equal, let's see, y is going to equal 8k minus 29. All right, we know x is the same as y, so I'll just calculate x because it looks like it's going to be easier. 6 times 21 plus 13. 6 times 21 is going to give us 126. 126 plus 13 will give us 139. Okay, so 139. That's going to be the same that is right here. So I'll just put in 139 here. 180 minus 139. That's going to leave us with 41 as the value then of z. Okay, so our answer there's got to be answer choice C. Go ahead and move on to our next question. So let me go ahead and switch sides so that we can go over to question number 17. Okay, obviously I'm moving a little bit faster, but that's because on the first section, I wanted to go a little bit slower so I could show you sort of all of the, or at least more tips and tricks, more in-depth explanations, things like that. But now I kind of want to show you, I don't really have to show you as much of that because I kind of covered a lot of it in the first section. Here's 17 in the given equation, p is a constant. The equation has no solution. What is the value of p? All right, what we see here, we're not dealing with a quadratic. We're dealing with something that's going to be just not a quadratic, so we don't have to deal with an x squared value. So we're not dealing with b squared minus 4ac, obviously, because that's not a quadratic. So we're looking for this equation to have no solution. What's the value of p? Well, in order for this to have no solution, it can't have any sort of x value because some x value times some constant that is non-zero will equal 84 at some point. So we ultimately need this all to equal out to, we need this right here to equal out to 0. So in order for that to happen, let's go ahead and take that negative 3x plus 21px, set it equal to 0. We'll add 3x to each side, and that'll give us 21px is equal to 3x. Our x's will cancel. We'll have 21p is equal to 3. Divide both sides by 21 to isolate the value of p. 3 over 21 can be simplified down by dividing both the numerator and the denominator by 3. That gives us 1 over 7 for the value of p, so our answer has got to be B. Going on to question number 18, we got function f is defined by the given equation for what value of x does f of x reaches minimum. I see this is already factored out, so our x's would be 10 and negative 13. Keep in mind that the x-coordinate of your vertex of the quadratic, the x-coordinate of the vertex of the quadratic will always be at the midpoint between the two zeros. Okay, we have our two zeros here of 10 and negative 13. We find the midpoint by doing 10 plus negative 13, which is the same as 10 minus 13. We have to divide it by 2 to get the midpoint. 10 minus 13 leaves us with negative 3 over 2. So our answer for the value of x at which f of x reaches its minimum must be negative 3 over 2, which is answer choice D. Moving on to question number 19 now. Let me go and switch sides on my screen again. Okay, this one's a little bit longer. I think I can show it all without adjusting my zoom. Let's see, scroll down. There we go. Perfect. Function f of x equals 1/9 x minus 7 squared plus 3. Okay, this is going to be vertex form. It looks like we've got our a value there. And then right here, our vertex is, our point of our vertex then would be 7 and 3. Okay, because it's x minus 7, which means the x coordinate for the vertex is 7, y coordinate is 3. Gives a metal ball's height above the ground, f of x in inches, x seconds after it starts moving on a track, where 0 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 10, which of the following is the best interpretation of the vertex of the graph of y equals f of x in the xy plane. Okay, we already found our vertex of 7 and 3. This 7 is representative of the number of seconds, so we reach our vertex at 7 seconds, which since this is opening up, that vertex would be our minimum. And we know it's opening up because a is greater than 0. And then this 3 value then must be our minimum y value, or minimum f of x. We know f of x represents the ball's height. So the ball's minimum height is 3, does it give us a unit? 3 inches above the ground, and that happens at 7 seconds after it starts. So we have option A, metal ball's minimum height was 3 inches above the ground. Yes. Okay, that's represented by that y value of 3 in our vertex. Moving on to question number 20. Triangle JKL cosine K is 24 over 51. Anytime we have a triangles or circle questions, always draw them out because it's extremely helpful. Okay, we have JKL, angle J is the right angle. So J here, JKL, angle J is the right angle. What's the value of cosine of L? Okay, cosine of L, keep in mind cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine of L would be this length here, which is LJ over the hypotenuse. We know that we're given cosine of K is 24 over 51. So cosine of K would be the adjacent right here is 24. And the hypotenuse is 51. So we'll go ahead and do 51 squared. We're just using a squared plus b squared equals c squared here. But obviously we have to sort of move things around a little bit in order to get this value of LJ. So LJ, this side length, is going to be the square root of this. So let's go ahead and put this in the calculator and we'll see what we get. 51 squared, subtracting 24 squared. That'll give us 2025. Take the square root of 2025. That'll give us 45. So the value of LJ is 45. We can go ahead and plot that in our triangle. We need the cosine of L. Cosine of L then would be the adjacent of L, which is 45 over the hypotenuse of 51. We can go ahead and simplify this down. If we divide, looks like 45 over, okay, so we got 51 and 45. If we're going to simplify this, I mean, if we were going to put this as a decimal, we could just put 45 over 51 is 0.8824. So we could also just write this as a decimal, 0.8824. If we were to simplify this down, 45 is divisible by 15, but 51 is not. 51 is divisible by, let's see, how would you divide this? I think 3. 45 over 3 is 15, 51 over 3. Okay, 51 is divisible by 3 because I know we can get 60 and then minus 9. So 51 over 3 will give us 17. So if we wanted to simplify this down, we'd get 15 over 17. Okay, but you could also just answer it as a decimal of 0.8824. So yeah, you could just use the decimal, which is probably honestly the easier way and the way that I would use. But if you wanted to simplify it, there's how you could simplify it as well. Here's 21 now. 21, let me go ahead and switch sides. Now's a great time to go ahead and send a super thanks if this video is helpful. Super thanks is the best way to support my channel and allow me to continue to do this to help as many people as I can on the digital SAT. Here's question 21. In the given equation, b is a positive integer. The equation has no real solution, so no real solution, and I see we're dealing with quadratic set equal to 0, so that means I'll be dealing with b squared minus 4ac. Since there's no real solution, it's got to be less than 0. What's the greatest possible value of b? Okay, well, we've already pretty much got this set up. I'll go ahead and substitute in for a and c. B is just b, so we can just leave that as it is. Okay, we see that our a value is just -1, so I'll actually go ahead and just change this to a +4 for now, and then our c value is going to be -676, so minus 676. All right, from here, 4 times -676, let's see what that gets us. That's going to give us 2704. Okay, so we've got minus 2704 b squared. Got to be less than 0. We'll go ahead and add that 2704 to both sides. Okay, it's got to be less than 2704. We'll take the square root of each of these. Square root of each of these. Let's see what the square root of that is. Square root 2704. That's going to give us 52. Keep in mind that we need to be less than that. And we're looking for b is a positive integer. Okay. Equation has no real solution. What's the greatest possible value b? Well, b has to be less. Keep in mind this is equal to b. Okay, so b's got to be less than 52. Therefore, the greatest possible value of b then would be 51. So our answer there is 51. Going on to 22, we've got, looks like 2 lines here. If a new graph of 3 linear equations is created using the system of equations shown, and the equation x plus 4y equals negative 16, how many solutions x, y will the resulting system of 3 equations have? Okay, key thing here is that it's going to be the system of 3 equations, so only a solution if all 3 of them intersect at one point. I'm going to go ahead and convert this equation into slope-intercept form so it's easier to graph. So I'll have 4y, I'll subtract x from each side, negative x minus 16, divide both sides by 4. So now we have y is equal to negative x over 4 minus 16 over 4, minus 16 over 4 give us y-intercept of negative 4, and then we have negative x over 4. Okay, that makes sense because we subtracted x from both sides, divide by 4. Yeah, so we're going to be going down. Now, if I'm going down x over 4, then let me go ahead and go over by 4, and we will go down by 1. So we'll be right here. So it looks something like this. Okay, over here. I'm just going to roughly draw this. Yeah, we're not going to intersect all 3 anywhere because as I can see, I've got that one horizontal line. So these 2 right here, this line, which I'll call line 1, this line I'll call line 2, and I'll call this straight line line 3. 1 and 2 might intersect somewhere, but there's nowhere where all 3 of these could possibly intersect. And so, yeah, it looks like this has the same slope as well. Okay, it looks like this one is also going down by 1 over 4. So since these 2 actually have the same slope and a different y-intercept, because this one's got a y-intercept of negative 4, so we have 2 of these with the same slope but different y-intercepts, there's no way that they can intersect all 3 at one point. So because these 2 are actually never going to touch each other because they have the same slope but a different y-intercept. So yeah, impossible. So our answer there's got to be 0. We can go and move on to number 23 now, I believe is what we're on. Let me go and switch sides. Yep, 23. All right, looks like we got function f gives the value in dollars of a certain piece of equipment after X months of use. If the value of the equipment decreases each year, pay attention to that, it's underlined, by p% of its preceding value, what is the value of p? P is a percent, so we can get that in percentages. I see I've got an exponential function here. So initial value, growth factor in this case is below 1, so I know we're decreasing in value. And then x over 12, what is x? X is months. Okay, so that makes sense. 12 over 12 would be 1 year. We're asked about how much the value decreases each year. So that would be where we have 12 over 12, since 12 months is in a year. So that'd be to the power of 1. So 0.64 to the power of 1. Okay, as you can see, that's going to equal just 0.64. Well, if we're multiplying by 0.64, that means we're going down by 36%. Okay, because 1 minus 0.64 would equal 0.36, and then to convert that to a percent, you'd multiply by 100. Okay, so our answer there would have to be 36% of the value we're decreasing each year. So our answer there's got to be C. Key thing there is recognizing 12 months in a year. You get 12 over 12, which is going to be to the power of 1. Moving on to question 24, it looks like we have got a data set. Let me zoom out so you guys can see a little bit more of this. Okay, let me know in the comments if that's too small, and in the future, I'll just keep it zoomed and scroll. 24 says the dot plot represents 15 values in data set A. Data set B is created by adding 56 to each of the values in data set A. Which of the following correctly compares the medians and the ranges of data sets A and B? All right, well, if we just add 56 to each of these, 56 plus 22, that would give us 78, and then we'd have 79, and then we'd have 80, 81, and 82. So as you can see, the actual range doesn't change because we still have the same distance between our minimum and maximum. So range will stay the same. So I'll just write range is going to be the same. So I'll use equals there. And then we have medians. Now our median will obviously have to increase because every single value is going up by 56. So median goes up, range stays the same. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our options. We have option A, median of data set B is equal to the median of data set A. No. Option B, median of data set B is equal to median of data set A. No. Median of data set B is greater than the median of data set A. That part's true. What about the next part? And the range of data set B is equal to the range of data set B, or to the range of data set A. That's true. And then D says that the ranges are different, which is not true. Moving on to question number 25 now. Let's go and go down here. Go and switch sides on my screen. We've got 25. Okay, we've got an equation, x squared plus y minus 1 is equal to 49 represents circle A. Circle B is obtained by shifting circle A down by 2 units. Always pay attention to any sort of translations or transformations. Which of the following equations represents circle B? All right, well, we know that we're going down by 2 units. We already have our circle equation here. Our x value is going to stay the same because it's only a shift down. So we can go ahead and get rid of A. We can get rid of C as well. And then looking at the difference between B and D, they're all the same other than the value here. We have to keep in mind that if we are shifting, or if we're shifting down 2 units, then that means we have to increase our center of our circle by shifting it down 2 units as well, right? Now, the key thing to understand is that the center of a circle in the circle equation, it has that minus k, right? It's y minus k squared, where k is center, is y coordinate of center, is y coordinate of center. Okay, so if we want to move something down 2 units, we actually have to adjust the value in the opposite direction, right? So we don't subtract, we would add. Okay, so we need to actually add 2 onto this -1, and that will give us this +1 right here. Okay, so our answer there's got to be D. All right, moving on to question number 26 now. Okay, let me go ahead and switch sides on my screen again. Okay, now's a great time to go ahead and turn on notifications if you have not yet. Here's 26. Okay, I think that's pretty good on Zoom. 2 identical rectangular prisms each have a height of 90 centimeters, so I'll go ahead and write H equals 90. I'll also look out for any sort of change in units. Base of each prism is a square, and the surface area, so I'll just write that as SA, of each prism is K centimeters cubed, so we're still dealing in centimeters. If the prisms are glued together along a square base, the resulting prism has a surface area of 92/47. So let me change this to surface area of, we'll do P for prism is equal to K. And then we have surface area of, I'll do surface area of joined prism. So I'll call that JP for joined prism is 92/47 K, which I see is just slightly smaller than 2K if we were to just have them separate. All right, so we've got what is the side length in centimeters of each square base? Okay, so we need to solve for the side length in centimeters of each square base, which means we need to get this stuff in terms of side length. So in other words, we need to solve for S. Okay, well, let's start by getting what the surface area of the prism is in terms of S. Well, surface area of a prism, we know that we have the 4 sides that are, just the rectangle for the surface area. So that would be our height times our side length. So 90 times S. And there are 4 of them, so we got to multiply that by 4. Okay, and then we also have to add on our faces of the squares. We have 2 faces on a prism, so that would be 2 times S squared. S squared is the surface area of a square. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and simplify this down. And I'm probably gonna have to, let's see how I wanna zoom out or zoom in. Let me zoom out. I'll zoom out here and then I'll zoom in right here. Okay, I'll just leave it like this. All right, so 90 times S, that's 90S. 90S times 4, 360S now. Oh, I can't write off the page. That's, okay, that's just great. So I'll have to write very small then. Okay, so let me actually just erase SA of P then. And we'll just understand that that's the surface area of P. Okay, so if we simplify this down, that's gonna be 360S plus 2S squared, plus 2S squared, sweet. Okay, now we need the surface area of the joined prism, which we know we can represent as 92/47K. So if that's the surface area of the joined prism, we know the surface area, okay, so we need to get K in terms of the square. So the surface area of these 2 that are separate would be 2K, right? Because we're told that, right? Because we know the surface area is K and we have 2 of them, so that'd be 2K. Now we want to get to what the side lengths are. So let's go ahead and subtract what the surface area is of the joined prism. And that will give us the surface area of the 2 squares that are joined together. Okay, so that'll give us 2/47K, right? And then that's going to equal 2S squared, since that is, if I draw this out, okay, it's the value right here, right? We have those 2 square sides that are glued together that are now missing on the surface area. All right, so that's 2S squared. From here, we can go ahead and substitute in the value of K because we know that that's 360S plus 2S squared. So we're going to end up with, well, actually, let me simplify first. Let's divide both sides by 2. Okay, now those cancel. So now we have K/47. Okay, let's go ahead and put in our value of K. Let me actually isolate K and then I'll do it. So let me multiply both sides by 47. Okay, so now we get 47S squared is equal to K. Okay, so 47S squared is equal to K. We know K is also equal to 360S plus 2S squared. Okay, now I'm going to erase what's up here, just so that way I have some more room now. All right, so now we need to solve for s. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, because we need the side length of each square base. We just need to solve for s. All right, so let's go ahead and set this equal to 0. So we'll do that by having 47 s squared minus 2 squared. So that'll leave us with minus 2s squared, which will leave us with 45s squared. And then minus 360s. From here, let's go ahead and factor out that s value. So 0 is going to equal s times, looks like we actually take out 45 as well because we have 45 and 360. So 45s times s, that's 45s squared. 45 times 8 is 360, so minus 8. And now we have our equation. So now we know it can't be 0 because it has to have some side length. So we know that s would have to equal 8. So our answer there's got to be answer choice B. All right, so that one's a little bit lengthy, but not too difficult. Here's number 27 now. We got 210%, or I'm sorry, 210 is p percent greater than 30. So 210 is p percent greater than 30. What is the value of p? Okay, so 210 is equal to 30. Now it's p percent greater than 30. So 1 plus p percent greater than 30. Keep in mind the 1 is because if it was 0% greater, it'd still be 30 times 1. And that's p percent over 100, since obviously percents are over 100. Now from here, we got to solve for p. We distribute our 30 to this and this. That'll give us 210 is equal to 30 plus 30 over 100 is 0.3 p. We'll go ahead and subtract 30 from both sides. 180 is equal to 0.3 p. Divide both sides by 0.3. 180 divided by 0.3. We'll go ahead and put that in the calculator, see what we get. 180 over 0.3. That'll give us 600 as the value of p. Okay, so 600 be our answer there for the value of p. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and consider sending a super thanks to help support my channel. Additionally, please drop a comment below letting me know what videos you want me to make in the future. And if you are looking for additional educational services that I offer, please check out my website, haydenrhodea.com.